Right, so the last few books were X-Men, but before that we had like three Spider-Man books, so I was feeling a bit Spider-Man out. So I'm really glad that there's no like Spider-Man until like much later on. So let's see what the book is that we're looking at today. Okay. Spider-Man Blue is the perfect love story. Uh, it essentially retells the love story that never was. Essentially, it's the lead up to Spider-Man finally getting the guts to ask out Gwen Stacy in his entire like inner monologue how he feels, because it's set like Spider-Man, like Peter Parker is recording this cassette tape. It's Valentine's Day, and he's talking to Gwen in this cassette tape, and he's just talking about how much he misses her. Because I'm sure everyone knows the story, but Gwen Stacy kidnapped by the Green Goblin, thrown off of the Brooklyn Bridge. Spider-Man tries to save her, casts a web or spins a web. It latches on, and her neck snaps from the impact of it. Yeah, it's a tragic story, and here we're reminded of it, like, pretty much all the time. At the end of every, like, chapter or issue in this, it's literally like, it literally just is Spider-Man, Peter Parker saying, I wanted you to be the woman that I spent the rest of my life with. I didn't realise that it would be the rest of your life. I'm just like, oh fuck. So it's one of those kind of books. And then when they introduce Mary Jane, because Mary Jane comes in just to throw a spanner into the works, that is a very interesting dynamic, and it's very interesting to see from a modern like standpoint how they address the whole love triangle there, and like the whole thing with Harry being involved and Flash going off to join the army, and how what Peter's attitudes towards Flash and towards everyone else was at this point, because of course at this time, the time that they're trying to retell, Peter Parker was just really just becoming Spider-Man. It was only like a few issues into the run, he was trying to woo the girl of his dreams, Gwen Stacy, and everything just came up, but at the end, he saves the day and gets the girl, but the girl unfortunately dies. So that kind of throws a spanner in the works, and we're constantly told about this, like, the way that Peter Parker's life works. It's always good, it's always bad before good, and the bad stuff is always really bad, but the good stuff is never like equally as good as the bad stuff is bad. But what we're essentially told here is that if Gwen Stacy was still alive today, Peter Parker and Mary Jane would never be together. Essentially, it's the most tragic love story in the entirety of the Marvel landscape. there are like villains here. There's like action in the book, quite a lot of it, but that never like takes the forefront of the book. The book is solely about the relationship between the hero and the love interest, and the villains are kind of just there to give Spider-Man something to punch and to like justify it being Spider-Man book, not just a Peter Parker Peter Parker Gwen Stacy book. And it does take precedent. The romance does take precedent, which kind of makes the action feel like it's not worth it. But a lot of the stories retold here, just with the monologue going over it and everything, like the context, the new context towards it, it makes it feel a lot better. And it makes it feel a lot more like it actually means something now. It actually has it's not only like him fighting these villains is not only like a metaphor to how his life is. It gives us a great context as to what was going on. But the actual storyline here is taken from a storyline back in the 60s, where it did lead up to the MJ and Peter Parker, not MJ, Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker actually getting together. This is just a retelling of that, but it's with a new coat of paint. Speaking of the new coat of paint, Tim Sale is a beautiful artist. When he draws like Spider-Man, he draws a beautiful rendition of Spider-Man. He has so much life, and the colorist, props to the colorist as well. And there's almost more, it's very akin to the old-fashioned like art style of, say, Steve Ditko or Jack Kirby, but it is very much its own style as well. It's a reference to that old style without being a carbon copy of it, and that is something that Tim Sale does very, very well. And it's something that Jeff Loeb can match equally in the writing, and I feel like here the writing doesn't take precedent, it's the art that does, because the art has to do so much to tell the story that, like, you know, words really can't, because a romance is a more physical thing than a verbal thing. And all the interactions are good. Aunt May is not an integral part to this, but she does play a part in it. Harry Osborn is very integral to this. It does feature a who's who of Spider-Man villains. Like, pretty much most of them show up here, or most of the well-known ones. And it does lead into a fight with Kraven at the end, and that is a pretty entertaining fight. And it's a really damn good book, and I give it a 10 out of 10. Spider-Man Blue is a beautiful tribute to not only Gwen Stacy, but it's a tribute to Stanley and Jack Kirby. Not Jack Kirby, Stanley and Steve Ditko, and how much care and passion they put into the character. It's also a tribute to to John Romita Sr., how much care he put into crafting the death of Gwen Stacy as well, and like how much like got put into that. You can tell how much got put into this by how beautiful the end result is. It just boggles the mind how perfect a comic book can be. This isn't my favourite Spider-Man book by by any means. There's a lot more comics that I like more than this, but it is essential, and it's a perfect love story to be shown in a comic book. And that's why I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. I will see you guys in the next video. If you like this one, please give it a like, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe if you haven't already. Here we've hit 300 subscribers. That's pretty bonkers, isn't it? We're like one milestone closer to that 1K mark. Let's make that happen sooner rather than later. The reason why it's so dark in here is because it is dark in here. I have an extra light with me, but I couldn't. I did so much with the artificial light that I did as much as I could, but you know, the woes of being a struggling startup YouTuber. Well, yeah. See you guys in the next video. Peace.